some added pads to make it feel more like football has arrived. And, of course, getting closer to the August 31st opener, Tennessee against UT Chattanooga. We invite you to join us this afternoon. You can call or text in at 865-656-9900 alongside VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain. I'm Josh Ward. Swain, good afternoon. How are you?
What's up? What's up? It's UT Chattanooga. Come on, Josh Ward. We're getting closer to the game. I need you to bring it with the enthusiasm.
That's what I said, UT Chattanooga.
No, it's UT Chattanooga.
Yeah, UT Chattanooga. Is that not what I'm saying?
UT Chattanooga.
UT Chattanooga.
There you go. There you go. The people can hear the lack of enthusiasm, the lack of energy in your voice, Josh. You got to bring it. You got to bring it. We're getting closer to the game.
Yeah, you're right. I do need that reminder here and there because games that include spreads of 35-plus points, sometimes I need a little extra kick, even if it's the season opener. So Dan Mullen will help with that over the next 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, when was the last time that you saw college football, Josh? You acting like you're so used to it.
Well, those graphics on the video game, I mean, they're close.
You don't have a game, Josh. You don't play. You can't count that.
I haven't played one snap of the new video game.
Me either. So we have to bring the enthusiasm when it comes to the first game of the season. It doesn't matter if we're playing UT Chattanooga or Akron or Cincinnati Tech State. It don't matter. It's the first game.
We are getting closer. The week before, remember, August 24th, we get a few games. We get Florida State, Georgia Tech, an ACC matchup. So that's 17 days away.
Well, here's the thing, too, Josh. I mean, like, you got this week. It's the first scrimmage. You have the next week. And the following week is really the last big physical week of practicing. And then you have to kind of dial things back and get ready for the first game of the season. So we're close, man.
Feels like it. I also, before we fully dive into Tennessee football, the latest SEC and college football conversations, I want to get an apology out of the way. I owe you one.
Huh. Hold on. Hey, Joel, is the recorder on? We got to make sure we can hear this multiple times throughout the course of the week and the day. I might have to go back and listen to this a couple times today. What you got, Josh?
So over the last couple of days, you might have noticed that I took a little bit of joy in bringing up the White Sox and their losing streak and how it had been nearly a month since they had last won a baseball game. They went nearly a month without winning a regular season baseball game. Nearly a month, Swain, since your favorite team won a game.
I heard you the first time.
So they won last night, and I want to tell you congratulations on that because it had almost been a month since they had won a game. So that's a big deal. But I also, I think I said on the air that they had tied the major league record for the longest losing streak in MLB history. They only tied the American League record for longest losing streak. So it wasn't an MLB record. It was simply the longest losing streak in American League history.
You know, this really sounds like a janky apology. It doesn't really sound authentic and genuine.
So this is me apologizing for not making it clear that the Chicago White Sox tied the American League record for the longest losing streak.
I guess that means it's not that bad.
Yep, just the American League.
Just the American League.
American League. And by the way, they're only tied for it. So they share the longest losing streak in American League history.
That's
longest.
Okay, that's better.
88 Orioles. So I apologize.
That's better. That's better. It's not as worse as it sounded yesterday or the day before that.
And they won last night. So I'm happy for you. Things are looking up for Swain as now you have that out of the way and you can get toward Tennessee's goals of trying to go win 10-plus games, trying to compete in the SEC for a championship, and trying to go make the college football playoff this year.
Trying. That's what we about to do. That's what I saw today in practice. That's what I saw.
No trying. There's only doing.
I saw a bunch of doing out there at practice this morning.
Says Yoda Swain. Okay, so tell me, what do you see? What do you like out of Tennessee's football team as more pads are going on, getting ready for scrimmage on Friday night?
Just efficient, man. It's efficient with our throw and catch today. I mean, there's not a lot of wasted reps. I like what our tight ends are doing. Um, Running backs have opportunity with Dylan Sampson. Not really needing to prove too much of what he can do on the football field. We know that. We've seen over the last 2 years. Good to see a lot of Paint Lewis out there. Um, you just look more like an SEC program. As I, high five a couple boosters and donors and spoke with on the at the practice field, they were excited about the season and they were like, we look different. We look different. Um, you can tell everyone is talking about that. I got a chance to see Danny White, our athletic director, and that's one thing that we've talked about too is how different we look. So we're ready to compete. We're ready to take another step as a football program. And I tell you, I can sit there and watch Nico throw the football all day long. The great Jonathan Wade has made his way in town, and took in practice today. It was really, really cool to see him talk with our coaches, meet Coach Heupel. Coach Foreman was there, so they got a chance to reconnect after years and years of not seeing each other. Chris Brown was also there at practice, so it was just a really, really cool moment. The way it's supposed to be when you have your former players come back and they showing all kind of love, and so it was just really good to witness Wade be able to come back to the school that he loves and cares so much about.
Yeah, when's the last time Jonathan Wade's been back?
Like he came through Knoxville a couple of years ago, but it was real quick. But really, really, really come, I mean, probably 2008, something like that. Yeah, he's been gone for a long time. So
yeah, that's way too long.
Yeah, he got a chance to really soak it in, man. Be at practice, hang out, talk a little bit with Willie Martinez. You just saw him, during team. He back there coaching. We were back kind of behind the play, so he's back there talking. I'm like, what? What are you talking about, man? Like he's like talking like he's talking to another coach about what's going on. Because I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying. Honestly, I was locked in and looking at my wide receivers. Man, he's into it, man. He loves his Tennessee Volunteers. He loves the defensive back position. Man, that's what he was paying close attention to. So it was really, really cool. Just witnessing him be back and being so happy. It was really like watching a kid in the candy shop or watching a kid at the video game aisle of a department store.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I've thought for so long, and from an outside perspective, that players coming back, former players being involved is so important. I remember a couple of years ago, it was the 22 season, right, when Arian Foster came back, another former teammate of yours, and there are different stories that have happened between the end of his time playing and then, but how emotional he was talking about coming back and having folks around the program tell him how proud they were of him. I could see how much that meant to him. So hearing that, I didn't realize it had been that long since Jonathan Wade had been around the program and the facility and all that stuff. So I'm glad he was able to be back today.
Yeah. I mean, it's emotional when you come back and you think about your time playing. It was 20 years when he was a player on the squad. I was a sophomore at the time. He was a sophomore or redshirt. No, I think he was a redshirt sophomore because he redshirt after getting hurt that 03 season, his true sophomore year. So it's been 20 years. So a lot looks different. A lot has changed, and there's a lot being worked on. There's a lot of construction there with the football and the baseball. They're tearing down things there. Lindsey Nelson Stadium. So there's a lot of change, but there's a lot still changing. And man, it's all the support staff, everyone pulling in the same direction. The tempo that you see at practice. I mean, that's why we play with that during the games, because in the practice it's super, super fast, and there's not a lot of wasted reps, not a lot of wasted time with Josh Heupel's football practice.
Yeah, that's something that David Cutcliffe talked about a couple of weeks ago, how well run the practices are under Josh Heupel.
Oh, well-oiled machine. Well-oiled machine. It's fun. It's fun. And it's built-in conditioning. Back in the day, you would practice, and then the coach would say, all right, guys, line up along the fence now. I want you to take your shoulder pads off Put your helmets, put your shoulder pads. Make sure that the helmets are not upside down. We don't want nobody spraining the ankle. All right, guys, line up on the line. We're going to do some conditioning. Nope. Conditioning is built into your practice because it's high tempo, it's very intense, and you're going to build that endurance while you're practicing. You like my Hoover High School football coach impersonation?
What's going on down there at Hoover?
It's always something going on down there, man.
What's wrong with your state down there?
Oh, wait a minute, sir. Just wait a minute. Birmingham ain't got nothing to do with Huntsville. It's like two different states. Hoover always got some drama going on down there. And,
always.
The latest is two coaches are put on leave. They brought in a new coach because coach was getting a little too physical with the players at practice.
Yeah, they need to do a reboot of the show from about 20 years ago. Call it 3 days or something, even though you can't even do 2 days anymore. But they need to do 3 days and bring that series back.
High school coaches.
On everything happening at Hoover.
High school coaches. I need to remind y'all. Kids are playing football less today, okay? 7-on-7 and flag football is a thing with youth sports because of the physicality at a young age and how that can compound over time. Football coaches, this is not 1980s. This is not the 70s or the 90s. You might want to ease up being physical with the players in practice. Let the players hit each other. You can't hit them, coaches, okay? You can't tackle them. You can't spear them. You can't clothesline them. You can't power drive them. You can't do a choke slam, high school coaches. You a coach, okay? Your playing days are over. You just coach and encourage, discipline, but you can't hit the kids, all right?
We have the internet and we have phones that record video that produce those videos out to the internet nowadays.
Oh, my gosh.
Changing things.
Only at Hoover High School.
We'll come back here on Josh and Swain and invite you to join the conversation. Call or text in at 865-656-9900. Jason Swain, VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver here, having checked out the Tennessee Vols earlier today. We'll continue the conversation on Josh and Swain. This is Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us today as we continue on both 99.1 The Sports Animal and AM 640 The Sports Monster. You can be a part of the show by calling or texting in at 865-656-9900. Swain, having seen some of practice earlier today, and again, there's more work to be done in the fall. We do have this question. Swain, what is your realistic expectation for Boo Carter's playing time and performance this year?
I'm glad that that question was asked because I'm standing there with Jonathan Wade, and this is after they concluded a open field tackling drill. And you have to understand something. Wade doesn't talk about this team on a daily basis like us, and so he's not familiar with all the names like we are. And he was like, "Hey man, that Boo Carter's a dog." And
that's what he sees.
That's the one play that really stood out to him. So with the injury to Jordan Thomas, Boo Carter has an opportunity to make a name for himself and get out there on the practice field and on the game field and make some plays. But I think for him, it's about being consistent, and it's about being in the right place. You can't have catastrophic bust. You can't have bust where like your guy's running wide open up the sideline and he scores a touchdown because you were in the wrong place. That will keep you off the field. We know from Tim Banks from his time playing Jalen McCullough over Andre Turntime, when Turntime was at the beginning of the fall camp, the number one guy at that position, and Tim Banks and Willie Martinez felt more comfortable with Jalen McCullough, so that's why he played. Whereas Turntime may be more athletic, that should be a sign. Like, you can't be in the wrong place at the wrong time. You have to line up properly. So if Boo Carter can get that down for the most part to where you don't have to simplify everything else. Because remember, I forgot what year it was, but it was when Najee Warrior was a freshman. And the defensive back end was really watered down to help Najee because you didn't want to keep him off the field because he was so special. But when you had him on the field, it made it easy for the opposing defenses to kind of know what you're doing defensively because you were playing like cover 2, cover 3. Wasn't a lot of stemming around. Wasn't a lot of disguising and coverage because he was so young. Well, if you are Boo Carter, you want your coach to be able to have the luxury of calling some exotic blitzes, to be able to disguise, line up in one area before the ball is snapped, and then when the ball is snapped, be able to sprint to your area so that way you can try to confuse some of the quarterbacks. You got to think about this too. We're playing against experienced quarterbacks. Our 2 toughest games this year, we think it's going to be Alabama and Georgia, right? Well, Alabama has a second-year starter. Georgia has a second-year starter, and the guy's been there for forever. So you're not going to just easily trick the opposing quarterbacks at those schools. So you have to be able to line up in one place, disguise coverages, fake them out, confuse them a little bit. So it's important for Boo Carter to know his stuff.
Yeah, Nigel was a freshman in 2016, and there was a lot of excitement about what he might be able to do, but he had a lot to learn. That South Carolina game, I think he had an error in the defensive backfield that led to a long pass by Jake Bentley, and that ended up being a difference in the game in the end.
Yeah, so that's the thing about playing young, talented DB, especially if they don't play corner. Like, you can, If you have a really good corner, hey man, cover 2, that's easy. Cover 1, that is super easy. See man, get man, follow man. He goes to the bathroom, you help him wipe. Like that's easy, right? But the other stuff, like, did you get the call to blitz? And playing in the slot is difficult. That's the hardest position in football to play, is a nickel corner, because guarding a slot fade is dang near impossible. How many times did we see Tamarion McDonald be in position, be in great position, but the pass was great and the catch was great? Well, a better pass beats a better coverage. That happens all the time. And so it's really difficult to play that position, which is why you felt really good about Jordan Thomas, because he was experienced. Putting a young dude there, whew, it makes you a little nervous, because option routes can kill that nickel player if he's given a two-way go, because you have the outside on the out route, you have the middle of the football field on an in or dig, and then you have vertical on the slot fade or a post route. So it's really difficult. You don't have the sideline to act as an extra defender for you like you do with the corners.
With that injury to Jordan Thomas, that has sped up that sense of urgency, hasn't it, in this conversation about Boo?
Yeah. But if you're Boo, man, you should love it. I mean, I know we talked about Jay Wade in the first segment, but it's really why I got an opportunity my freshman year. You know, when he decided to truck a defender, he separated his shoulder. Well, that allowed me to have an opportunity as a freshman wide receiver to get in there and get reps. And then when I got in there and made plays, the rest was history. I played in every single game. I started some games as a true freshman. It didn't show up on the Jumbotron, but I was the first receiver taking the reps in some instances. And so that was an opportunity that I took advantage of because of an injury in front of me.
Be honest, were you on the sideline before that play telling Jonathan Wade, you know, those DBs were talking a lot of smack. You ought to truck one of them. Did you do that?
No, I did not. But when it happened, I was like, it's time to ball. It's time to ball. I kind of kept to myself as a freshman. I mean, I was cool with my fellow freshman receivers, you know, Brett Smith and Meacham, but you know, I kept to myself, man. I was doing my thing, man. Me and Jay Wade really didn't, click, and really until later on in my career when we went up against each other so much. We had a mutual respect for each other because we helped each other get better. But my freshman year, Jay Wade was the enemy. He was competition. He was in my way.
In all seriousness, isn't it crazy how that changes the future? Because if he doesn't suffer that injury, I mean, you know better than me. Maybe he stays a wide receiver. Maybe he still moves over to corner, but he would have been a class ahead of you. Instead, you guys end up being seniors together in 06, which I'm sure changed the projection of your friendship. And then, of course, the wide receiver defensive back battles you guys had.
Yeah, I would like to think that I would have helped move him to DB regardless. That's what I like to think.
I'm sure that's true. Hey, it worked out.
It worked out, man.
Right?
It worked out, 100%.
We'll come back. We'll continue talking about Tennessee's workouts, 865-656-9900 with the Vols back practicing today. We'll continue the conversation right here on Josh and Swain. This is Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us. We're on social media at Josh and Swain. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Swain, if Jim Harbaugh finds himself back in college in the future, which I'm skeptical of, he's now the Chargers head coach. He won a national title at his alma mater, Michigan. But if he returns, he will have to serve a one-year suspension, as he was hit pretty hard by the NCAA today. This is not related to the sign stealing case. This is over the COVID dead period recruiting violations, which I believe Jim Harbaugh denied at the time. But the NCAA has punished him for that, as the notice of allegations are still expected to come over the sign stealing case, which is separate from this. But he had level 2 violations, which wouldn't be that big of a deal. But then Harbaugh was hit with unethical conduct and failure to cooperate with the membership's infractions process. But again, will this ever actually matter? Maybe not, because he's now back in the NFL.
You know, I used to do my best bat talking as a youngster. You know when I used to do that?
When's that?
I used to do that when my uncle would walk away and leave the room and didn't hear me. I was told to do something. I said, yeah, when he was looking at me. He turned his back. I said, no, but I whisper. No one can hear. Good job, NCAA. You're really punishing Jim Harbaugh because he's not even in college anymore. You're not punishing him. He's not coming back. Why would he come back and coach any other school besides Michigan? Michigan is a school. That was the mission from day one, for him to win a championship, bring one back to Michigan, and beat Ohio State in the process. He did that. He's done. If he's not going to coach with the Chargers, he's probably going to retire. I don't see him going back to college. So I guess the NCAA wants to make themselves feel like they really dropped the hammer. It's not going to matter. He's not coming back. If you want to drop the hammer, you have to do it on Sharon Moore or Michigan, but you're not going to really punish Harbaugh.
Yeah, and Moore might get some kind of suspension over the sign stealing case. We'll find out about that sometime in the near future, we think, at least with a notice of allegations after the draft came out through ESPN's reporting this past weekend. So it's a 4-year show cause with a 1-year suspension for Jim Harbaugh.
That sounds brutal, doesn't it?
Head coach of the LA Chargers.
What was Jeremy Pruitt's penalty again?
Did he get a 6-year show cause?
6 years. Harbaugh gets 4. Okay. And then what was Pruitt's penalty? Do you have like a 3-year suspension, or was his just a 1-year suspension? I have to go back and look at that. I mean,
it would be, so for Pruitt, it would be a suspension for the first year of employment.
So the same thing.
Longer in the show cause.
So the same thing except for the show cause.
Right.
Okay, NCAA. If you say so. If you say so. He's not coming back. I wouldn't come back if I were him. I would stay in the NFL, especially with Justin Herbert.
We got this text from Caleb over in Nashville. Caleb, appreciate you reaching out through the text box, 865-656-9900. I recently rewatched the 15-game versus Georgia on YouTube. It's wild. The 15 team lost four games by a combined 17 points. I remember thinking Butch may be the right guy at that point. How things can change in a few seasons.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time I thought the same thing. But I think there were some glaring signs that it was hard to ignore, even while having a really successful roster. And so I'm glad that we haven't experienced those glaring signs, and everything that we see right now is good. We got a great culture. We got a coach that knows his X's and O's, that has credibility. You got a good staff. I mean, everything's in place for this program to win this year and in the future. So we're good, man. We're blessed right now as Tennessee fans.
Yeah, I think so too. I think a lot of coaches or a lot of programs, when you have change that occurs like Tennessee, then Butch Jones arrived in 13, you'll often see coaches take a program from being in bad shape, like Tennessee was when Butch Jones arrived, to then being in good to really good shape. Like Tennessee in 15-16 looked like it was in really good shape from a personnel standpoint. They were playing in big games, winning some of them, and being competitive in a lot. But getting from that point to then going over the hump to where you're legitimately playing for championships, that is a big hurdle, even if you're knocking on the door of getting there, because it takes so many things going right, and it takes the right kind of leadership to be in place at the top to get you there, and that's probably what was lacking.
Well, I mean, in baseball and in basketball, it's probably a little easier than football because there's so many people. Like, you've been in practice, man. You've seen all the support staff, all the players. Like,
Yep.
it's so many people, and they all have to be on the same page. It has to trickle down to your on the field coaches, if you're the head coach, to your on the field coaches, to your off the field coaches, to your leaders on your football team, to everyone else on your football team, down to the young players. You have the equipment staff that all have to be on the same page, and Roger Fraser does a good job of managing that and leading that. Your medical team always have to be on the same page. There's a lot of moving parts, and one slip up, one bit of miscommunication can affect a player's future, whether it's medical or something else. So like it's very important for everyone to be on the same page, and you have to believe in your leader. It's important for your leader to be genuine, to believe in what he is doing. It's one thing to do your job because you have to do your job, but you don't really believe in the leader. It's another thing when you believe in the leader, it makes doing your job that much easier, and you do it with purpose. That's what's going on in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's what looks like Tennessee has right now with Josh Heupel. We'll continue that conversation, 865-656-9900, if you would like to join us right here on Josh and Swain. last spoken to Austin here on the show, they've landed a couple of highly touted 2026 guys. The buzz continues to grow with David Sanders Jr., who will announce in 10 days, August 17th. The five-star offensive lineman in the 25 class will announce. So I'm sure Austin hasn't been asked about David in the last 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll be sure to do that when he joins us at 1:30.
I'm ready, just like Austin Price, for this to be over. For David Sanders, I know he wants it to be over. And for Tennessee, if Tennessee is able to get him.
Rodney Garner met with the media today, Tennessee's defensive line coach, and he said his philosophy everywhere he's been is play 10 to 12 guys. And he said right now they have more guys than what they've had in the past to be able to do that. He talked about wanting to stay healthy and all that, but he did not shy away from talking about the development of guys like Joshua Josephs has made. He said he took a sophomore dip, but he's back to being more explosive. And that's a guy that we've talked about a lot this offseason. If he can have a really good year to go along with what James Pierce is able to do. Tyree West is another player in that class, a third-year guy who has high personal expectations. If he can play at a high level throughout this season, that changes a lot of what Tennessee can be, I think, in trying to get after the passer. They have to replace Tyler Barron from a year ago. Pierce can be a year better too, but those are a couple of guys that Rodney Garner talked about today. Talked about Jason Jenkins having a nice camp, but Joshua Josephs being more energetic, more explosive like he was when he arrived at Tennessee.
Man, all you need is a nice little sophomore slump to wake you up. I think about Jalen Hyatt and the sophomore slump that he had, and then, boom, he explodes in his junior season. You know, when you have a little bit of success in your freshman year, you get a little spoiled because you think, oh, if I'm having success now as a freshman, it'll definitely be a whole lot more the next year. But then you don't bring the same work and the focus and the level of intensity and the consistency that you got to have every single day to be that player that you thought you were going to be. And then you see other people passing you up. And then you realize, wait, next year I'm going to be on the downside of my career. The first 2 years, you're walking up that mountain. The last 2, you're going down the mountain. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute. I got to get it together. I can't have another year like I had before where I didn't play as much as I thought I was going to play. And then you see James Pierce do what he did. You're like, oh no, I gotta tighten up for real. That's what you're getting now with Joshua Josephs. You're getting that sense of urgency. And I'm looking for him to have a big, big year. We saw him kind of burst on the scene in that LSU game down there in Baton Rouge. The young ballers, Pierce and Joseph, they made some plays there on the defensive line. It's time for him to get back to that.
Nathan asked us in the text box, if you can only beat one team between Georgia, Oklahoma, and Bama, who do you want to beat from a ranking standpoint?
Ranking standpoint? Oh, gosh. Why are you doing this to me, Nathan? You know I want to pick Bama. But you want to beat the highest rated team. The highest rated team is Georgia.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
What do you mean you think it's correct?
Well,
it's correct.
Here's the holdup.
Okay.
That game is November 16th, right? When Tennessee goes to Athens.
Okay.
And that is my initial answer too, by the way. But what if something's happened to Georgia? Because they have to, before playing Tennessee, play at Ole Miss, at Texas, and at Alabama. What if there's been some crack there for the Bulldogs and they're all of a sudden a 2 about to be a 3-loss team? Now, if they're a 2-loss team and Tennessee beats them, that might knock Georgia out of the playoff. Georgia could be a 9-3 team and still get in because of their schedule and how talented they are. But I think Georgia's the answer, but I think it's a little more complicated because I need to know more of how the season has gone for Georgia for them to lose at home to Tennessee in November.
Well, I mean, I said Georgia because I think that they're going to have a better record than Alabama. I think they're a better team. But since you put it that way, it's really the team who has the best record. That's who you want to beat because you want your wins to look better. And it looks better beating a top 5 team more than beating a top 25 team, which is what we're going to do to NC State and Oklahoma. It looks better to beat a top 5 team. whether if that's Alabama or if that is Georgia.
Yeah, we're assuming Tennessee's taking care of business in all the other games because otherwise this kind of becomes a moot point.
Well, if you don't take care of business against Oklahoma or NC State, it just puts more pressure on you to have to beat Alabama and Georgia. And you want them to be rated high to try to nullify that bad loss against NC State or Florida. Because Oklahoma's still a good football team, and I think they'll be, a good team this season. So if you drop that one to them, it won't look as bad if you drop it to Florida because we know with Florida how they look this year.
Yeah, we did have David text in about the Gators. He said, "How are the Gators looking? Lord have mercy. Can we win that game handily?"
I think we can win that game. I think my man Chris Doering is preparing to wear some Tennessee orange with our bet this year. I think he knows what's coming. I'll just say that.
Chris Doering has Tennessee winning 10 games.
You dang right.
High on the Vols.
You dang right. So I felt really good about Tennessee playing Florida last year. I feel even better about Tennessee playing Florida this year at home. And y'all know who number 8 is, right? Yeah, y'all know about number 8 in orange?
Well, which one are we talking about?
Which one?
Which one?
I'm sorry. I didn't know there was another number 8 that deserves this type of attention.
Yeah, I mean, my assumption is you're talking about linebacker Caleb Perry, who wears number 8. Oh, you meant Nico.
You dang right I meant Nico.
You can't just say a number, Swain, not in 2024 in college football because
yes, I can.
You're talking about multiple people.
Yeah, yes, I can. Yes, I can. You know what? It would be tough to be.
You probably can't.
I feel bad for Caleb Perry because, like, he walking in the store, he's like, "Yo, that's my jersey. That's my jersey." And he see the front of it, but then when the back says, "Yeah, I'm Alayava."
Yeah,
that's not your jersey, Caleb. That's Nico. That's Nico's jersey. that's Nico's jersey, man. That's Nico's jersey. But yeah, we got number 8. I feel good about.
I can't say to you, man. I love how number 3's looking in camp. Oh, you like Jermod McCoy? Well, I do, but I was talking about Squirrel White. He's really stepped his game up.
Yeah.
There's another example. Sorry, I'm getting us off track.
It's all good. McCoy looked good today, by the way, too. So makes sense.
Yeah, he is a guy that arrived with a lot of excitement. I think he's backed that up from everything we've heard.
Yeah, so far he has been as good as advertised. He's our best corner. Leading, who I think looks the best returning punts, may be Squirrel White right now.
Okay.
Yeah, he looks really good returning punts, catching them consistently. I like how we coaching our punt returners. I didn't see one drop. Now, we were catching indoors and not a lot of hang time indoors because of the ceiling, but I like the technique that we're teaching.
The ceiling.
Huh? The roof is the ceiling. Yeah, I heard that time or two. But Kelsey Pope doing a really good job of coaching up our punt returners. Great technique.
A good follow-up by Evan. Why don't we just beat every team, he asks.
I think that's the best solution.
Why choose games to win when you can choose them all?
I don't know if there's going to be an undefeated team in the SEC this year, but
I don't think there will be.
I think that's a good idea, a good strategy to try to implement, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, Georgia has to play at Texas, at Alabama, at Ole Miss. Tennessee has a game at Georgia. I mean, the Vols schedule. Texas has an easier draw, I would say, but Oklahoma and Dallas playing Georgia at home, playing at Texas A&M in the final week is not one to overlook. Also, non-conference, they play Michigan week 2. But in the SEC, I think Texas might have the draw that gives them the better shot at doing it. But the week in, week out that we've talked about, they now inherit with the SEC. It's going to make that tough. We'll come back. We still have a lot to get to. 865-656-9900 to join us right here on Josh and Swain. Number 2 of Josh and Swain is here. Thank you for being with us today. Hope you're having a great Wednesday afternoon. We'll talk to Austin Price of VolQuest coming up at 1:30. So he'll join us a little less than 30 minutes from right now. We'll talk to Braden Gall of 440 Sports over in Nashville 1 hour from now. And we will invite you to join us along the way. Call or text in at 865-656-9900. Swain, you mentioned an hour ago you got to check out some of Tennessee's football practice earlier this morning. As the Vols are back to work today, they'll practice again tomorrow, and then Friday evening have a scrimmage. We've referenced and talked a little bit about the scrimmage over the last few days. It'll be the first big scrimmage of the fall. What is the importance of the scrimmage? What can Friday's scrimmage serve for the players, for the coaches? What are they trying to accomplish when they hit the field at Neyland Stadium coming up on Friday evening? Swain, we don't have you.
Well, there we go. Sorry about that. You want to see how your offense can handle being backed up 1st and 10 on your own 10-yard line. You want to see how you can handle that situation defensively. You want to know what you can do, what you can't do, how aggressive you can play. Do you trust your corners to play on the island in man-to-man situations? You want to know on 3rd and long, can you try to push the ball down the football field? Do you have the protection to do that? So you want your offensive line to be tested. There's just so many situations that you want to present to your football team to see what they're good at and what they're not good at. What do you need to work on a lot on in the second scrimmage? What do you feel good about from the first scrimmage? So it's really about putting a test out there and seeing who can pass that test individually and as a unit and as a team, as a group.
Yeah, so that's situational football, which fans probably hear the term a lot. That's exactly what it is, being put in situations that they're going to likely face in games.
Yeah, they're not going to put the ball down and go, all right, here we go. We're going to do a real game. We're going to do a kickoff, and then the offense is going to go. Then we're going to punt it if you don't score a touchdown, or we're going to – it's not like a real game. It is, all right, here's scripted amount of time. We got 10 minutes for this. We got 10 minutes on 3rd and short. We got maybe 5 minutes or 5 plays on, 2nd and short. What happens when we're behind the sticks on, 2nd down? Usually with this offense, we want to be ahead of the sticks. That's why that quick pass to the outside on 1st down can be so important, because if you pick up 5 yards, we're back to the line of scrimmage. It's 2nd and 5, and we're going fast. That first play is so important. So what happens when you don't pick up that positive play on 1st down? All right, let's work on it. All right, it's 2nd and 10. So those are situations that this staff will present their players at some point during fall camp. It may be in the first scrimmage. It may be in the second scrimmage. But you try to work on as much as you can to prepare your team for the game.
How different's the intensity level from a player standpoint when you go out there in a scrimmage trying to get ready for the season versus a day-to-day practice?
Well, for some guys, the intensity level doesn't change. That's the way it should be. Anytime you step out in between the white lines, there should only be one level. That's 10. But we're humans. It's different when you're inside Neyland Stadium, especially at night. I think the intensity level will be high because it's a different setting. It's a different time of day. And there are guys still fighting for their job to be on the football field. The nickel position, the star position, safety, receivers. Running back, who's going to take that 2nd, 3rd spot. So I anticipate the intensity level to be really, really, really high. It's hard not to have the intensity out there in the football field for a first scrimmage because it's the first one and everyone's excited about it. And the coaches and the support staff does a really good job of pumping that energy on the field, whether that's with your strength conditioning staff conducting warm-ups, or you got the music blaring. You have your leaders doing a really good job of making sure the energy is in the right place. So you can't play 11 on 11 football without having intensity. You're going to get your block knocked off.
Have you seen anything to this point that alters how you might have viewed the team 2 weeks ago? before practice got started officially started with fall camp for the 24 season?
Off the top of my head, no, but I did see more of Brew McCoy today. And
Okay.
I did see more Brew McCoy leading and going first in drills and set the tempo. And man, Brew looks good. I mean, yeah, he looks more slender, more lean, quicker. I was looking for like a limp to see. You can really tell he's coming off a significant injury. I really couldn't tell. Brew looks good. He looks real good. I know Hyper was talking about Brew, last week, the start of fall camp. I think it was the media day session, and Hype does a really good job of hyping his players. Okay, we understand that, right? And so sometimes I'm like, all right, we'll see about that. No, I understand exactly what Coach Hype was talking about. I get it, man. Brew looks really good.
Man, if he can stay healthy all season, and if that's the case, that means he's come back, which it appears he has to this point to be ready for the start of the year. That can make a big difference for the whole group of wide receivers, right? With his ability on the field, but how he can help lead that group along the way too.
You know what it might be? It might be the fact that he moved from 15 to 5. He may look more slender in the single-digit number. That might be what it is, but I don't think that's what it is. I think he just really looks like he got to work. He's more slender. He's more lean. He's quicker. That's something I noticed today.
Well, 15 is the physical come at you number.
He's still gonna
number
be physical.
5. You know, the single digit numbers, Swain. There's something about him makes it look like he can move around a little bit more. Maybe it was by design.
He is still going to be physical. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I'm not doubting that with Brew McCoy, but they really needed him last year when he went down with an injury. His absence was really felt with Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt having already moved on. Ramel Keaton was not healthy through a lot of the season. He struggled through the 23 season. So when they lost Brew, that was a big loss for multiple reasons. Getting him back would be big for several reasons. And then Chris Brazzell came in with a lot of excitement, a lot of hype, and we'll see if he can live up to it on Saturdays, because I think behind the scenes talk has continued to back up that they're excited about him.
Yeah, a couple guys didn't look 100%. I won't go into details of who that was. I'm sure there's other reports out there, because you got to think about I'm watching a portion of practice that's not open to the media, and so I'm not going to divulge who was out there, who wasn't, who looked healthy, who didn't. But there were some guys that didn't get the same amount of reps as others, and you wonder, is the plan for them to rest, take less reps, so that way they can be ready for the scrimmage? Because the scrimmage is everything. That's the first true test for your football team, how they can handle playing against each other while still taking care of each other. You don't want to throw a guy high and dry, but then you having your defensive backs going and taking out someone's legs. Like, you got to take care of your teammates. Now, when you play a different team, a different color, you take them out. But how can you play fast, play football the way it's designed to play, but at the same time take care of your teammates? So you get a good lesson about that on Friday.
It's pointed out in the text box, Zakai Ziegler came back from injury, looked great last year. He wears number 5. Maybe the number 5 juju will carry over to Brew McCoy as well.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. But here's the thing. Zakai wasn't the same Zakai midseason as he was at the beginning of the season. It took Zakai time.
Sure.
It did. For some people, they didn't see a difference, but you could tell a difference between Zakai midseason form and the ramp-up period. So will there be a ramp-up period for Brew at the beginning of the season? And if so, how is he going to look?
Hey, Chip asked a follow-up question to our discussion about the scrimmage. Is there an in-game situation that's worked on the most during the scrimmage? Or is there an area that matters the most? Red zone work, because that matters for both sides of the ball.
I mean, I hate to say like there's not one that matters more than the other, but you have to be even better in the red zone, offensively and defensively. Like you got to be just really crisp. I mean, you might be able to survive a mistake. Um, when the ball is located in the middle of the field, but you get a holding call in the red zone, that's a touchdown coming off a board. You have a bus, that's a touchdown that's going on the board if you are the defense. So the small details just matter that much more, and they become big details in the red zone.
Yeah, last year Tennessee offensively was, I think, 75th in the nation in red zone scoring. The year before, they were top 3.
Yeah. We ran the ball when everyone knew we was running the ball. We didn't have penalties. We were accurate. We were really good with our timing. And there's small things. They're really small things that add up to be big things that cost you points. I mean, Tennessee was averaging 46 points per game last year, and you take 2 touchdowns off the board almost. And Tennessee was averaging in the low 30s this past season. So that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and I just mentioned scoring percentage. Touchdown percentage was an even bigger drop off. They were number 1 in the country 2 years ago in touchdown percentage inside the red zone. Last year, 106th in the nation. That takes you from 10-2 to 8-4 pretty quickly. So they improve and get close. They don't have to be number 1 in the country in touchdown percentage in the red zone, but they have to be a lot better than 106th if they want to be a playoff contender this year.
Yeah. Well, you have an experienced line that can avoid the penalties in the red zone. You have a chance. When you have a running back, and this is going to be a question because we saw Dylan Sampson do what he did his first 2 years here, but how is he going to run in short yardage situations? Is he going to pick up those tough yards? I know he's gotten stronger, but he hasn't gotten taller. I mean, I don't think he's gotten too much bigger, but he's gotten smarter. He's gotten stronger, smarter as a player, like I just mentioned. So how are we going to be, in the red zone? Like we have probably a deeper stable of running backs in 22, and still use Princeton Fant in short yard situations that season. So think about that. How are we going to fare in the red zone with our running backs?
We'll continue the conversation. We'll talk more Tennessee football as the afternoon goes along, football and recruiting with Austin Price when he joins us at 1:30. And you can join us by calling or texting at 865-656-9900 here on Josh and Swain. Welcome back in to Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us. VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain is here. I'm Josh Ward. Austin Price will join us in 10 minutes. We'll talk Tennessee football with him. Latest on the recruiting trail, as the recruiting buzz is there for Tennessee. I think that's affected the overall conversation around Tennessee. There's a team that's going to contend for a playoff spot, Swain, and then the recruiting conversation has gotten so much national attention that I think that's caused a lot of people to feel like Tennessee is, excuse the expression, Tennessee is back, but back in the conversation with the big-time programs like Georgia and Ohio State that are competing for a national title and getting better odds, understandably so. But teams like Texas, LSU, Oklahoma now in the SEC, those programs that other people have been used to talking about a lot, the Tennessee's getting recruiting talk and then on-field talk. It's a lot of national love for Tennessee right now.
That's why Tennessee is kind of the next team to be in that conversation with Ohio State, with Georgia, with Alabama. You have programs like Auburn recruiting at a high level. Auburn might be in the Rod Thomas sweepstakes, according to a little leaked video of Rod Thomas talking. Anyways, LSU, you got program.
I hold Auburn to a completely different standard of expectation when it comes to anything. So,
sure,
Auburn just goes at a different pace.
Hey, man, you got to do what you got to do.
No
judgment here at all. But even if I had judgment, I would keep it to myself because we have no room to talk.
I'm not even saying that in a judgmental tone. I just, as fact, I consider Auburn different from everywhere else.
Yeah, for sure. That is correct. But Tennessee is next up, and they're next up. We are next up because of how we are recruiting, the stability of the program, the leadership that's in place, the NIL organization that we have, and how the university is going to use that. Like when Josh Pate talked about Tennessee and Tennessee coming, he wasn't lying. There's some things in place, and this is good where we are, but this is not where we want to be. Like talking to Danny White today, Jonathan Wade was so blown away by the facilities. But Danny was like, I'm ready for those facilities to be done. I'm ready for the football complex to be completed. I'm ready for the baseball. Like, he's ready now. He wants more. He want to win at a higher clip. Like, we're winning and doing a good job right now, 3 years in a row of winning the SEC All Sports, championship or whatnot. But that ain't good enough for Danny White. So we're in a good spot now. But guys, we're building to be at a better spot and stay there. And recruiting is really, really important. You want to create an environment and a culture that student athletes want to be a part of. And that's the whole goal. It's about how do we service our student athletes? How do we serve them? How do we make sure that we put them in the best possible situations to be successful and achieve all of the goals that they have? The more we can help them get what they want, we can get what we want.
Yeah, and the competition for that is going to be intense with the schools that are already in the SEC, and now the arrival of Texas and Oklahoma. We can have fun with the joke of who's the real UT. University of Texas will amp up the overall competition of athletic dominance with what they do across the board. So it's already intense with what Alabama does. Florida's trying to get some things together in football. Athletically, they have so much promise. LSU has won multiple national titles. So that competition across the board, football's king. Football's going to matter the most. But in what Tennessee's trying to do, continuing success across the board and then winning more, adding national championship opportunities like baseball just did, the competition within the league is going to be intense in trying to do that. And Texas is going to add to that for sure.
I don't want to make it sound simple, but it kind of is simple. Like the coach who, you have to be a good coach first, but the good coach that has the best support system and alignment, those are the programs that have the most success. Like, look at Tony Vitello. He's a good coach, but man, the alignment, the support that he's had to be able to build a winner from a roster standpoint, to have a commitment with the renovations in the stadium. Um, that's only going to make it easier for him to do what he did this past year, which was to win a championship. You have Josh Heupel, who's a good coach, a good X's and O's coach, and then you surround him with the resources. He's looked at right now as a top 5 recruiter in the country, whereas Central Florida fans couldn't wait to get rid of him because they didn't think he could recruit. Well, he couldn't recruit at your school, but he's doing a damn good job recruiting to our school. You see, that's the difference. So it's not a secret. You have to get a good coach, but you have to support that coach. And that's what Auburn did not do. Brian Harsin was a good coach, but they never supported him. They didn't want him, it didn't fit, and that's why they stunk. You can't tell me Brian Harsin's not a good coach. So you got to have both. Nick Saban, a good coach, but they had the alignment put in place really before he got there, towards the end of Schuler's tenure. Everyone started rolling in the same direction, got on the same page, and that's why they had that success for so long. Kirby Smart saw that. He went to Georgia. He's done the same thing. Steve Sarkisian saw that. He's at Texas, and Texas has been one of the most dysfunctional athletic programs in the last decade. They've hired Tom Herman, Charlie Strong. They've hired the best of the best at different times, and those coaches have went to go fail because they didn't have that alignment. Sarkisian saw that alignment at Alabama and has it there at Texas. So that's what it's about in Tennessee. Like you just said, we'll be competing with Texas, I think, for a long time because both programs have figured it out. Two programs that are used to a lot of winning, in the past, had some infighting, went to the bottom, realizes, hey, we got to work together if we want to get back to the top, and they're on their way back.
Yeah, a little bit of a Spider-Man meme with the two UTs. Well, one UT, according to the SEC, and
UT
the other
and
one.
Tex.
And Tex. We'll come back. We will talk to Austin Price of VolQuest. We'll talk Tennessee football recruiting, the latest with David Sanders Jr., the 5-star offensive lineman, and Tennessee football on the field when we come back on Josh and Swain. With us alongside VFL and former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain, I'm Josh Ward. 90 minutes to go on the show, and right now we're excited to go to the Stanley Fencing Gates hotline to say hello to Austin Price, who covers Tennessee football and recruiting for VolQuest.com. Austin, thank you for the time as always. We are at T-minus 10 days until five-star offensive lineman David Sanders Jr. will make his announcement. Where do things stand there with David Sanders as he gets closer to making things official publicly with what he plans to do in this 2025 class?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to hear a whole lot from David between now and then, and we're slowly creeping towards that date, right? I mean, it feels like it's been forever since he was just on campus a few weeks ago, and, you know, a lot of the chatter remains about Tennessee, and, you know, we'll see if it comes off that at all, but I feel like Tennessee's done a tremendous job in this recruitment. They built a lot of great relationships with David and David's family, not just the mom and dad, but, you know, younger sister, you know, grandparents. They've done a really nice job with the entire family. And so it's been impressive to kind of watch Tennessee go from where they were a year ago when he came here for camp at night at Neyland, kind of worked him out at, that night. And they've just kind of been full speed ahead for David Sanders ever since then. And he's repaid it with numerous visits, more visits to Tennessee than any other school.
Who's more excited about his announcement, Austin Price or David Sanders?
Me. It's me. No offense to David, but, you know, anytime there's one that kind of drags on like this, it's just nice to get to the finish line. And I know he's excited to have it behind him and focus on, you know, his senior year there at Providence Day. He wanted to do it in front of his classmates, his family, and that was important to him. And they've kind of stuck to their plan. Their plan the entire time was that first week of school. That's when they're doing it. And, you know, again, 10 days away from David Sanders Day.
Do you remember a recruitment similar to David Sanders? You've been doing this a long time, AP. Any other recruitment stands out that, you know, reminds you of David Sanders' recruitment?
Yeah, I don't know. There's been a lot. You know, in recent years, there's just not many that make it this far. Most kids are off the books in July, and, you know, I mean, there's a few here and there. I mean, Onis Cohen-Bandy will go the 23rd, but as far as a top 10 top player, Justice Terry in this class looks like he may take it all the way till December, which is the extreme of extremes. Like, that never happens. And David Sanders, again, is sticking to what he's kind of had, you know, pegged, you know, for the last 5 or 6 months. And off the top of my head, nothing comes really to mind, but, you know, the game has changed so much. I mean, it changed from when you went through to 5 years after you went through to 5 years ago to now. I mean, like, it's constantly evolving when kids can visit, when they can take official visits, when they commit. It all has been sped up, and it happens quicker and quicker and quicker every year.
Austin Price is with us, VolQuest.com. You mentioned Onis there in the defensive backfield. What's the latest with him, with his announcement then a little more than 2 weeks away?
That's right. You know, Onis is, you know, I think 23rd, and, you know, Tennessee's, again, in a tremendous spot there as well for a young man who's just kind of scratching the surface of what he could be at the cornerback spot.
The big news this past weekend was five-star quarterback Faison Brandon, who you had told us about a lot over previous few weeks, announcing his commitment to Tennessee. They also picked up a four-star tight end in Carson Snead 2 days later. He announced on Monday his commitment to Tennessee. But the impact there, reaction to the announcement to Tennessee, and then maybe what that can mean for the Vols in 2026 recruiting.
Well, I mean, obviously it's huge. Anytime you can get the number one quarterback in the country in the boat this early, it's a big deal. I don't think he'll be able to come over to campus as much as George did. I mean, George was always over here. Like, I mean, yeah, for the major days, but I mean, one guy's coming to town, George would come to town because he was 2.5 hours away. Faison's 5. So it'll be a little bit harder for him to make it to campus on the regular. But I do think for any of the major events, Faison will be here. He's going to work the phones. He's going to recruit guys. And with Tennessee being heavily involved in the state of North Carolina in 2026, whether it be Kendra Harrison or Smoke Matthews or Brody Keefe or the Dunham kid at Myers Park, Leo Delaney there at Providence Day, I would expect him to work all those kids because, again, he's from that state.
Tennessee concluded their sixth practice of fall camp today. First day in pads. So far, the thing I hear most about is how deep they are, how big they look, and how they're ready to compete on the SEC playing field. Anything that stands out after 6 days of practice, or 6th practice?
No, they're exactly who I thought they would be. I knew they were going to be bigger. I knew they were going to be a deeper team, a more athletic team. The question still remains is where are they at running back? Obviously, they have Dylan Sampson and then a lot of inexperience behind him. If that group, exceeds kind of the expectations, I think watch out. Can Nico stay upright? And then where are they at in the back end? Losing Jordan Thomas was a blow because he is a veteran. You just got so many new faces in the back end of the defense. A lot of the fans have been clamoring for this, right? They were ready to see. They didn't want to see Warren Burrell or Jalen McCullough or any of those guys anymore. They wanted new faces. Well, they've got them. Mm-hmm. And so we'll see what those new faces can do. Ricky Gibson, Jermod McCoy, you go back to safety with Turrentine. Boo Carter's going to get every opportunity to be Tennessee's starting star. It's up to him to go out and earn Tim Banks' trust. But I think Tennessee, as we said here on the 7th day of August, intends on it being Boo Carter's job. But he's got to continue to prove he can handle it mentally. If he can handle it mentally, I'd be shocked if it wasn't number 23 running the star spot for Tennessee.
Outside of Boo Carter, and we're talking to Austin Price, VolQuest.com, outside of Boo Carter, who you think needs a big scrimmage kneeling under the lights on Friday night?
I think it's everybody. They've got certain guys that are, a little bit nicked up and banged up. I'm sure they'll probably set a few of them out. Like John Campbell, I don't expect to scrimmage Friday night. We'll see if Lance Hurd's able to do any kind of real work. But, he's coming back from that knee cleanup in July. That, it's a bunch of nothing. But at the same time, I don't think they're going to rush him back. I think they're going to be cautious with him. So we'll see who all is a go for that scrimmage. Tennessee doesn't put they put stock in it, okay? Don't get me wrong. They do so much 11-on-11 work during the course of a regular practice. The scrimmages they're not the end all be all. So I think, Tennessee will be selective with who they go with. They're not going to put anybody out there that could be in harm's way. But I think, for Peyton Lewis, any of the running backs, Deshaun Bishop, I think they need to all have really nice days. And ultimately you'd love to hear Nico had a nice day, right? He's got one start under his belt, and he's going against a defense that, has a lot of quality players on it. So I think, for my liking, you want to hear Nico made some plays, on Friday night.
Austin Price, VolQuest.com. What do you hear about the tight end position with Ethan Davis entering his 2nd year and then a couple of transfers also competing at that spot, Holden Stace from Notre Dame and Miles Kitselman from Alabama?
A much deeper unit than what Tennessee's had the last couple of years. I think it's really a 3-headed monster, and I don't think that that's hyperbole. I think that is, given where they're at, who's starting could change by the practice. It could be Miles Kitselman starting. And then by Friday night after a scrimmage, it could be Holden Staes or Ethan Davis. So I think that Tennessee's planning on playing a lot more players, not just at tight end, but wide receiver as well, a bigger rotation. And so I think Tennessee plans on playing all 3 tight ends this fall and, making sure that group is healthy for the stretch run.
Nathan Leacock is intriguing to me, AP, because he was one of the top receivers in the country coming out, and then he has his freshman year. He's had his injury hurdles, but he's healthy now. But there's a lot of other dudes that are competing for the same job as him. Where do you see him in the pecking order?
Well, I think he's obviously, buried a little bit behind, some older guys. But in talking to some people, he has started to kind of turn the corner a little bit. I think he kind of, it was a little bit down on himself at one stretch. I think he's, put in some hard work and it started to turn the corner, which is good to see. And so, again, I think that, buried a little bit because Tennessee's got such a deep wide receiver room. But when you're making plays, you're making plays. And that catches the eye of everybody, including Kelsey Pope, Joey Halsley, and Josh Heupel.
Austin Price, VolQuest.com. Was Rodney Gardner willing to put some praise on his group? I know that's not something he wants to do. Was he willing to offer a little praise today when he met with the media?
Yeah, I mean, Ben McKee asked him, like, you had this, this offseason where your guys have, got a lot of praise, and he's like, who praised him? I didn't praise him, which is typical Rodney. But he did follow that up with, he did, talk about just kind of their growth and how much talent and their work ethic and how far the room has come in 4 years. And so, he clearly likes his group. They're a deep group, a versatile group, whether it be on the interior with athletic guys, with some space eaters and stuff like that, or out on the outside. So Rodney Gardner likes his group, and he should, because I think, they will be a formidable force all season long for opposing offenses.
Who praised him? Who did it? Show yourselves. Don't do it again. No praise for defensive line, if I can help it. I love Rodney Gardner, man. I love it.
It's good because it was his boss who did it, the defensive coordinator, Tim Banks. But Rodney Gardner he's in a position where he can still say that. That's wonderful. Hey, anything to plug out the door? What's going on? I guess the answer is probably everything right now at VolQuest.
Everything's going on at VolQuest.com right now. We've got a plethora of different things, and then we'll soon have the return of Vol Club Confidential, and season 3 will debut here in just a few weeks.
VolQuest.com. Go read the work, see the work, listen to it as well. We always appreciate the time, Austin. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Austin Price joining us on the Stanley Fencing and Gates Hotline. Rodney Gardner got you to visit down there at Georgia way back when.
Yeah, he did. He did. Because I am a man of my word. That's why. Even as an 18-year-old.
For you to then get kind of bad-mouthed by one of his position guys, David Pollock, right?
Yeah, Rodney probably told him, hey, if you sense him going to Tennessee, I want you to beat him down in NCAA and bully him around.
Well, order was delivered.
Well, the order didn't work, so go Vols.
There you go. And Rodney Gardner would say the same now.
That's right.
As Tennessee's defensive line. We'll come back, 865-656-9900. Good conversation there. Appreciate the time with Austin Price. As always, we'll continue the Tennessee talk right here on Josh and Swain. Sport. We will talk to Braden Gall in about 10 minutes. We'll talk college football with him. I think he was at Titans practice again today. Will Levis dropping some dimes. So we'll talk a lot of football with Braden 10 minutes from now. We talked to Austin Price last segment. Anything stand out to you in the conversation there with Austin? Recruiting just continues to roll. Vols feel really good about David Sanders Jr., and I think should in 10 minutes, but talk some fall camp with Austin as well.
What stood out is that Austin hopes that David Sanders pushes his commitment back to maybe December. What sounds like to me.
I think that's probably a good idea, because if it's going to be Tennessee, if you can drag that out and the hype comes even later, the more anticipation, the greater the excitement when the return comes your way, right? So that was my takeaway too.
I mean, don't we all love a nice recruiting day announcement?
Yeah, the old school days.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
A signing day hat announcement. Did you see what Juan Gaston did the other day? He ended up going to Georgia, but he did a jacket removal. So he said, when I take a team's jacket off, it will mean that they're out. And he had a Georgia jacket on to start. And I was like, okay, I can see how this is going. So he takes the Georgia jacket off. Then I think Tennessee, and then whichever, Oregon maybe, and South Carolina. And guess who's at the bottom? Georgia. So you got us, Juan. Picked us out. So I was good for him, but I was a little annoyed by that one.
I'm not a big fan of putting on a hat of one team to take it off to pick another team. I'm not a fan of putting on a jacket, taking it off to try to throw shade at another team. I'm not a big fan of that. But
I don't like it either. Yeah. And I would say that whether it's a guy choosing Tennessee or Georgia or Washington State, whatever. Just knowing how much time they put in and how those relationships go. But anyway, that happened last week, and we're also being very facetious. August 17th is the date, and I think David Sanders Jr. will and should stick with that.
Hey, he can bump it up if he wants to. I'll be cool with that too. Yeah, 100%. So
yeah, there's a chance that Tennessee gets him, and then within a week gets another highly touted cornerback to open the defensive backfield with Onis Cannonbonny. So we'll see how that plays out in August. June and July really worked out well for Tennessee. August has so far in the 2026 class, and they'll look to add to that for 2025. So the on-field conversation continues to be strong for Tennessee, and recruiting is right there with it. We'll come back and we'll talk Tennessee. We'll talk college football with Braden Gall of 440 Sports right here on Josh and Swain. Hour number 3 of Josh and Swain begins. Thank you for being with us. With VFL, former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain, I'm Josh Ward. 2 hours down, 1 to go, and we begin this final hour. Heading over to the Mid-State to say hello to Braden Gall with 440 Sports, Athlon Sports. Still get that preview magazine to help get ready for the start of the season. It's a reference point throughout the season as well. Braden, good to see you. Good to talk to you. How are you?
I'm looking for my magazine to show the folks watching on the video, but I can't seem to find it. That was bad planning by me. How are we doing, boys? What's up?
Man, that's just free marketing opportunity.
I know. My bad.
We're trying to help you out, Braden. We trying to throw an alley-oop to you.
I know. Yeah, I got hung up on the rim. It's fine.
Somebody says he can dunk. Then would be the point as well. It's like the basketball player when he hits his head on the bottom of the backboard. There are worse ways to injure yourself. People know you can jump that high.
They were talking about Simone Biles like getting 12 feet in the air off the floor routine, and at first I was like, you see it and you're like, holy smokes, and then you're like, wait a second, there's some NBA players that can get up that high, and then you're like, oh, the floor's bouncy too. Come on, try doing that on hardwood, Simone. Come on now.
Yeah.
No,
she takes away from the feet.
She's also like 3'9", so getting 12 feet tall is also quite remarkable. No, Simone is total baller. Baller. I don't want to be confused here.
Yep.
I don't need the Hive coming after me because she's a total baller.
Hey, Braden, we're just a week plus into the start of fall camps in college football. Anything stand out with the buzz that is out there? Everybody had a great summer. Everybody worked out well, but Tennessee or around the SEC, anything stand out in buzz that's working its way for the start of the 24 season?
It's just so different. I was at Titans camp today. It's just so different in the NFL, where like every question in the NFL is about a problem about the team. You know what I mean? And like in general, and it's not meant to be like in a negative or bad way, but like the Titans have a right guard who retired, Sadiq Charles. Okay, the question's going to be like, well, what happened? And what DeAndre Hopkins has a knee injury. Okay, well, what happened? Will Levis hasn't been sharp in practice. What happened? And with college, it feels like it's the complete opposite. It's like recruiting. It's like National Signing Day. Well, we got all 22 players we offered, and all of them are fitting our system perfectly, and they're all ready to go, and can't wait to get them on campus because we never missed on anybody ever in the history of our recruiting. And it feels very similar when it comes to camp reports. Like, oh, these young kids are coming along great. Quarterback's seeing the field well. We got lots of depth at this position we didn't have last year, and like it's just there are really good teams in this league. There are really good quarterbacks, and there are really high expectations. That's great. That's really good. That means it's going to be a fun season. But I'm not sure I'm buying anything right now. Notre Dame lost their starting left tackle, and after losing Joe Alt to the draft last year, to now be without 2 elite All-American two tackles, like that's a story I would point to as a playoff team. And if you're a fringe playoff team and you're looking for a sliver of news that could affect the playoff, like Notre Dame is going to face a Texas A&M defensive line in week 1 in College Station. And if they lose that game week 1 in College Station, that could be the reason Notre Dame is left out of the playoff. And if that happens, that means there's room for potentially a 5th SEC team to get in. So
Tennessee's pulling for Texas A&M week 1, right?
Probably, yeah. Now you have to pull for Texas A&M until like it's too much, because if they're too good, too fast, then they could compete for a playoff spot. So you have to like root for them early and then root for a few losses and then root for them to win again later in the year against Texas probably. So it's, yes, you do want Notre Dame to lose against A&M because I think they have a very clear path to a playoff spot, and they don't have a lot of like major circle the calendar games, and losing an elite left tackle who's an All-American caliber player for a week 1 matchup where they could lose. Yes, I think you have to root for Texas A&M.
I can't do it. They're too weird, Braden. I'm sorry.
Look, the Vols have the national championship ring, so they're not really that threatening there. Sure, there was the Alvin Kamara game, and like the very next day, I've told the story a million times, but the very next day my daughter was born, and that's the only reason I remember exactly what date that was, which I believe was October 8th, 2016, when Kamara goes crazy and then the overtime. I'm not really all that threatened by Texas A&M though. Like if I'm a Vols alumni or a fan, like are they the thing that you're threatened by? Like I don't think yet. If they turn into Georgia or Alabama because Elko's the right guy and recruiting is easy in Texas and the sleeping giant thing all happens, then I think we can all get real upset at Texas A&M and offended by them. But I don't. Right now they're just still the program that can't get out of its own way, I think.
The Jeremy Pruitt report came out either right before or at the start of the Texas A&M game at the end of the 20 season. Remember that?
Oh, that's right. I'm so glad that you remember that.
Throwing out random Tennessee, Texas A&M related facts.
There's probably a basketball rivalry in there somewhere we could throw out too. So,
well,
I'm not threatened by them.
At court, yeah. So it's actually it's a little deeper than
okay.
I would have first thought.
Okay, it's August.
But from a playoff standpoint, I mean that is part of the conversation, which is going to make like some don't like it, some do, but it will make the conversation more interesting over the next 3 months of the week in, week out, who's doing what, because there are 30 teams going into the year saying, hey, we can make a run at the playoff, and then obviously that'll get whittled down as the season goes along.
And I would broaden that number out even wider. I think you're talking 50 teams. Like now that's going to get whittled down real fast, right? Like you're going to get, like Oklahoma State last year lost a couple of games early. They came back and had a really good season. I think they won 10 games. They went to the Big 12 championship game, but they would not have had a playoff resume because they lost to South Alabama by week 2 or week 3 it was, I think, and they were 1-2 to start. There's a lot of teams that are good enough to compete for 8 or 9 or 10 wins in lots of conferences and to compete for conference championships. And if you're doing that, you're competing for a playoff spot. But you got to look around in September and see what people did and how does the committee evaluate a bad loss versus a team that changes and grows and gets better over the season. The amount of, so there's 2 things. Like you're going to have to watch like every game in every conference, which shucks. Number 2 is going to be like this whole like SEC thing, cheering for the SEC, which I think actually died years ago. I think it's kind of been, people make fun of the SEC for, Kentucky fan chanting SEC when Alabama wins. I actually haven't heard that much in the last like 5 to 8 years. I think it's kind of died off, thanks in large part to myself, campaigning to end that nonsense for about a decade and a half now. And I think it's finally over. But now it's really over because you need Ole Miss to lose. You need Missouri to lose. You need all these other teams to lose games and then win if you're trying to get in if you're a team like Tennessee. So, yes, you are rooting hard for everyone to lose, even SEC teams. That's right.
How should college football fans feel about Michigan? Should we feel like NCAA needs to leave them alone, let them be, just move on? Or do you think there should be a punishment for Coach Moore, the new head coach there, taking over Harbaugh? Like, what needs to happen?
I'm more okay with Sharon Moore getting punished because he was on the staff. I don't like, it's the classic NCAA issue. Like, do you punish the players on this team for something a coach of the Chargers did? Or like, it's hard to know. They clearly weren't doing it all that much last year, so you can't take away the championship. They're clearly the best football team. Again, Jim Harbaugh didn't coach 8 of those games. He was suspended for those games last year. One of the toughest games of the entire season was against Penn State. They didn't even throw a pass like in the last 3 quarters. Like they were just trolling people at that point. So I don't think there's any indictment on the championship. Do I think Michigan needs to be held accountable for what they did, even if I don't think it helped them as much as people think? Yeah, I do. But I don't know what the right answer is. Like, is it a postseason ban this year? That's a pretty big deal if you're like the 8 seed and you're going to host a playoff game. Like that is $15-18 million to the local economy. Like, who are you hurting then? You're hurting the local hotel owner and the bar owner and the restaurant owner and the tailgates and the fans and the kids. Are you really hurting Jim Harbaugh? Like, I don't know. So I think it's a tough answer. I think that there should be some precedent set around this stuff. Or here's an idea, and they've already done this once, which is put the electronic earpiece in the helmet, y'all. Like, holy smokes. Why are we holding up 15-foot boards on the sideline with random pictures on it? It is 2024. Put the thing in the helmet, and they're doing that. That's number 1. And then, again, like, in-person scouting is not nearly as beneficial as people think it is. I've talked to coaches that say it's not that big of a deal. So I don't know. I think it's hard. Like, you need to punish them because they broke the rules. But it's sort of like Todd Gurley signing autographs. Does anyone really think that the rule is that big of a deal? Did it really help them? I don't know. Like, I'm torn on that from like how big of a deal actually was it standpoint. So I'm not pro Michigan or anything. I just, Jim Harbaugh's press conferences continue to be elite. That is for sure.
Yeah. One reason I don't get too worked up over it, I think, is because I find it to be almost as entertaining as infuriating from a competitive standpoint. Like the Connor Stallions image.
Yes.
College football needs some of that. We don't need it to be completely polished. We need,
and here's the thing, like in the NFL, you see this with gambling issues, right? Like it's really strict policies. Calvin Ridley, he was out there making incredible plays today, suspended for a whole year because the NFL professional leagues, they cannot have their outcomes being called into question. The integrity of the outcomes has to be as pure as the driven snow for gambling purposes mostly. But you just can't have competitive like questions about how a game went down. And the NFL and the rules with which the professional leagues function really reduces the risk of cheating in a pretty big way. Like outside of players and what they do with their bodies, you can't really stop that. But, they're pretty strict. College is like a complete free-for-all. Like, college football has always been the Wild Wild West where everyone cheats at almost everything. Like, go back and read 1890s football stories. Like, there are stories about players transferring for a game and then transferring back. Like the way schools would bend rules and like guys don't think transfer portal tampering happens? Like what? Of course it does. Like cheating is baked into college football. And to your point, Josh, it is part of the imperfections of the game that I love. Like what is a good college football season without a scandal? You got to have a couple scandals to make for a good fall. So
yep.
Cheating is a part of the game in various ways, basically permanently. Forever. And so until it's not, I guess, and it turns into like the NFL. So we'll see.
Hey, Braden, before you go, mention you're in Nashville. You mentioned you were at Titans practice. What is the storyline right now? What's the talk in Nashville around the Titans?
Basically, offense needs to be better at offense. That's probably the big story. Will Levis had a couple of really nice throws today, but the offensive line, it's been largely beaten by the defensive line. The defensive line's not, outside of Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons, is not a particularly talented group. It's not the best group of them on the Titans defense. So the offense has been bad, like quote unquote bad, let's say, as much as you can be in camp. Tavondre Sweat today was totally unblockable. 1-on-1s, 2-on-2s, team drills, you name it. He's when he's out there, he's impossible to block. And the power is just absurd. He just like bull rushes people and you're just like, whoa, that's different. And it's fun to watch. The question is going to be how many snaps per game can he play? Keep staying in shape, all that stuff. Otherwise, I think there's a lot of optimism around this Titans team. There's a lot of intrigue. The receiving core is really good if DeAndre Hopkins is healthy. So some good fantasy options on the squad. But are they a division champion? Are they a contender for the division? I'm not ready to go there yet. So they got a long way to go on offense, and that's why they fired Mike Vrabel and hired Brian Callahan. So we'll see.
Braden, what's going on at 440 Sports for people to check out?
Basically, everything in the state of Tennessee you enjoy from a sports standpoint, we have you covered. 440 Sports YouTube page, 440 Sports, 440 Sports on all the social accounts, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, Facebook. You can get to us all over the place. We cover the Titans. We cover Nashville SC. We cover the Nashville Predators. We cover the SEC. We cover everything in the state of Tennessee, most notably, of course, college football and things in Nashville. So swing by, check us out. We're all digital across the board, so you can get all of our podcasts wherever you get podcasts. You can watch the shows on YouTube and swing by and follow us on the socials as well. Lower Broad Hockey, I'll just throw out one more plug. Lower Broad Hockey is our new Predators Substack community where we're going to be offering premium content, insider information, off-the-record stuff. So if you're a Predators fan, please swing by, check us out. lowerbroadhockey.com is the website. And we got some big news coming for you guys in September when training camp opens. So all things Nashville and state of Tennessee, come on over. Cool. Give us some support. We do appreciate it.
Cool.
Search 440 Sports. Hey, Braden, we appreciate the time as always. Go pick up an Athlon Sports magazine as well. I'm talking to you, Braden, because you got to keep it handy so you can be ready for the football season. Braden, thanks for the time as always, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Be good, boys.
Braden Gall joining us here on Josh and Swain.
Braden got a lot of stuff going on, man. We got a lot of stuff going on, too, here on Josh and Swain. We got about, 35 more minutes to keep rocking out here on the program.
Yep, we will do that. We'll continue 865-656-9900. We'll talk more Tennessee Vols. Also, Vols getting ready in the NFL. One VFL getting some big-time praise. You'll hear that coming up, and we'll continue the conversation with you being a part of it. Call or text in at 865-656-9900 to join us on Josh and Swain.
has a lot of quality players on it. So much deeper unit than what Tennessee's had the last healthy for the stretch run. Obviously, buried a little bit by hurdles.
But he's healthy now. But
when you're making plays, you're making plays.
You can listen on demand anytime, anywhere you listen to podcasts like Apple and Spotify or the WNML app. Search Josh and Swain, and you can listen on demand thanks to Beatty Chevrolet. Thank you for hanging out with us, and we invite you to be a part of the show. Text box is open at 865-656-9900. Swain, there's also, with NFL training camps going on, the chance to check in and see how VFLs are doing, especially rookies trying to either make a team or earn a spot on depth charts. And one guy for Tennessee fans to watch, because he'll get the ball in his hands this upcoming season, is Jaylen Wright with the Miami Dolphins. He had a monster season last year for Tennessee, going over 1,000 yards, huge yard per carry average, had some big plays as well. He has the speed to go with the size, and in Miami's offense, that could work out well. But I was interested to hear what one of his teammates said, Devon Achane, who has elite speed in the NFL. He was a big-time playmaker for the Dolphins last year. Check out what he said just a couple of days ago, meeting with the media, when he was asked about VFL and Dolphins rookie running back Jaylen Wright.
He's great, man. I told him, he's doing better than I was last year. Like, as far as Kent-wise and picking up stuff pretty fast. He's learning. And he a quick learner. See, me last year, it was kind of hard for me doing this part of camp. It got easy for me as I got to the season. But I already told him, man, you're a quick learner. Last year, man, I was struggling. I was stressing coming to practice, just not knowing. And so I feel like, he knows what he's doing, so he can go in there, he can play. So feel like he's in college still. He can go in there and play fast.
So big praise for the work that Jaylen Wright has put in to be prepared. Achane talking about how he was stressed coming in, and who knows, maybe Jaylen feels a little bit stressed internally. That would be normal. He's a rookie trying to earn a spot with his new NFL teams, but praising Jaylen for being ahead of where he maybe was entering the NFL. Speaking of Achane, that's big time praise for a guy who you saw put in the work at Tennessee to go from being a nice 3-star back with some speed to a big-time back as an NFL prospect.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm hearing about Jaylen Wright at the NFL level is how he is outworking everyone and not leaving the complex until late. It's basically living in the complex, and that reminds you of what he did at Tennessee that allowed him to have his breakout year this past season. So you can't hide hard work, and if you put in the work, you're going to get the results. He learned that at Tennessee, and he's applying it at the NFL level with the Miami Dolphins too.
This is just August 7th, but I saw earlier today Cordell Patterson, the top running back on the depth chart of the Pittsburgh Steelers, ahead of Jaylen Warren. They also have Najee Harris there with the Steelers, but Patterson was listed first team at running back for the Steelers.
He's still playing?
Still playing. Yeah.
RB number 1? That is crazy.
He's had one of the more incredible careers, hasn't he? He's one of the great all-time kickoff return men. Statistically, he ranks at the top in some ways. And then he changed positions from wide receiver to running back, and not only changed positions, but has excelled in the switch.
This is his second team where he's been basically RB number 1. And that's a really great fit for him because Patterson brings something to the table that Najee Harris does not bring. Najee Harris can catch the ball out the backfield, but he doesn't have the speed and the breakaway ability that Cordell Patterson has. And then Warren, although he's a more natural running back from a size standpoint, he can't do what Cordell Patterson can do. So it only makes sense that Cordell Patterson gets to Pittsburgh and then he takes over the number 1 spot. So they're going to have a quarterback and a running back who are number 1, who wasn't a part of that team last year. Because Justin Fields looks like he is in position to be QB1.
Yeah, I think he has a good chance to win that job. in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, if the Bears stink and my quarterback is not good, but the Steelers are awesome and Justin Fields is lights out, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be upset.
Well, he's still a Bear for life, right? So you can pull for him in that regard?
They don't do that at the NFL level.
Okay.
You are a Bear until your contract says you're not.
And then you're no longer a Bear.
Correct.
Which would be the case here.
Correct.
Speaking of the Bears and position changes, Velus Jones getting a look at running back.
That's probably that's going to be a nice wrinkle for sure. They have been extremely patient with Velus up there in Chicago. Usually guys are shipped out when they are selected in the first 3 rounds and they don't produce. But they believe in Velus, and that's good, man. All you need is someone to believe in you.
Yeah. Eberflus, the head coach, referenced his talent, his athleticism. He's important on special teams, but looking for a spot where maybe he can fit in better. It hasn't worked at receiver to this point. So a shot there at running back, knowing his playmaking ability with the ball in his hand. So there's a note. And then one other, you know that I like to punish myself from time to time. So I check out the Athletic and go to the Raiders section to see what's happening in the Raiders training camp. But came across a VFL note as there was a story yesterday on the wide receivers and the competition there. So they signed Michael Gallup. He retired. Devontae Adams has been away from practice because he and his wife are expecting their 3rd child. So he has been away with the anticipation there. A couple of others have dealt with injuries. So Ramel Keaton got some recent run with the 2nd team in practice. So my takeaway was I'd be really surprised if Ramel makes the roster of the Las Vegas Raiders, but that might open up a spot for him on the practice squad, which is a good thing. If you're not going to make the team, you stay connected, and that can create opportunities in the future. So I saw that note with Ramel Keaton running 2nd team with the Raiders with some other guys out at wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, you still get paid on the practice squad, and it puts you in a position to where you are an injury or 2 away from actually playing, in the regular season. So get there, stay there, allow yourself to be developed, and who knows, you might get opportunities as a rookie, or it may take a year or 2. But as long as you're in the system, you're on the organization's team, you have a chance.
So there's another storyline for Tennessee fans. You have Dalton Connect with the Lakers. You have baseball players all over the place doing big things, and more Vols to follow at the next level in the NFL as well, which is the way it's supposed to be. If you're sending guys to the NFL, Swain, there's correlation with what you're doing on the field in college.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we want to continue to do. It goes back to what I said in hour number 1, or maybe it was 2, about Danny White and this administration wanting to help these young athletes reach their goals, reach their potential. And I'm pretty sure a lot of their goals is to play at the next level, play professional. And Tennessee has helped Ramel Keaton develop and be ready for that opportunity. You look at what Jaylen Wright is doing there with Miami. You look at what Hyde and other players are doing at the pro level. And then Dalton Connect, you mentioned him with the Lakers. He's balled out day one because of the work that he's put in. I think that this last year at Tennessee under Rick Barnes has really helped him, and that's why he picked Tennessee, to get that coaching and that tutelage from a Hall of Fame coach in Rick Barnes to help him get to the NBA and be ready.
We have 30 minutes to go here on Josh and Swain. We'll continue the conversation. You can join it at 865-656-9900. We have an attaboy to hand out still. We have 30 minutes to go right here on both 99.1 The Sports Animal and AM 640 The Sports Monster. This is Josh and Swain. Thanks for being with us. With VFL, former Tennessee wide receiver Jason Swain, I'm Josh Ward. We'll be with you until 3 o'clock. Tyler and Will take over on the sports animal side. We continue on AM 640, The Sports Monster. Appreciate everybody in the Tri-Cities tuning in. Just a few days to go in the Olympics, Swain. By the way, Joel Embiid really rubbed my face in it yesterday. I was not complimentary of how he performed ahead of yesterday's game in the Olympics, and then he went out and had the international game of his life against Brazil.
Yeah, he was dropping 3-pointers, multiple, and pretty much dominating the paint. So I guess they call that the sports jinx, right?
Yeah. I Oppo jinxed him into playing a great game. Now he gets Jokic in the next game, so we'll need to step it up again against the MVP.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be doing the same thing to Jokic because
probably not.
Yeah, he wasn't doing it in the other game. I hope so. We hope
but
so.
His teammates can. Yeah, his teammates can.
His teammates can have the advantage. So, man, the Olympics have been so fun to watch. I think one of the coolest things is the effect it has on the little kids.
Yeah.
My kids think they Simone Biles around the house.
That's awesome.
No, it's not. It's not awesome when every single flip you're like, oh my gosh, are they gonna fall? Are they gonna break something? But it is awesome because of the inspiration that they're getting from the athletes there in the Olympics and the stories that they broadcast. They tell about how these young men and young women grew up dreaming about competing in the Olympics. So it's been really, really cool to watch, man.
Yep, amazing stories. The U.S. has also taken the lead in the gold medal count, 24-22 ahead of China. Then Australia is third at 14. In the total medal count, the U.S. is running away with it. They're at 86. China is next closest at 60. So they lead in the gold, and they lead overall with just a few days to go. Speaking of the U.S., can I say we lead or they lead? Who leads?
We
lead. Okay.
When Tennessee baseball won the championship, I said we. I ain't throw one strike or have one hit, but I wear that power tee every day.
Oh, you gave your all.
That's right. So it's we.
All right. Well, then we won the 1,500 meter yesterday. I'm very excited about that. Cole Hawker did all the work to make it happen, but what a comeback and a race toward the end. There were two huge favorites from Norway and Great Britain that he was able to beat out. And actually the U.S. took gold and bronze in that race. But Cole Hawker's comeback in the 1,500 meter for today's Attaboy and Attagirl, I'd like to split it from track yesterday because both were exciting. One was in dominant fashion. Cole Hawker came back to win in the end in the 1,500 meter, which was incredible on the United States side. And then Gabby Thomas ran away from everybody in the 200 meter race a little bit later in the afternoon. So I'd say split Attaboy, Attagirl for the performances, the drama of the 1,500 meter, and then the excitement of the 200 meter on the women's side. Both incredible races as the U.S. continues to have big track and field success.
Yeah, you mentioned, the two rivals, the Britain's runner and then Norway's runner. I mean, they were talking about that race and that rivalry during the broadcast leading up to the start of the 1,500 meter. And they were so concerned with themselves that Cole Hawker kind of slipped inside. Nice little swim move, looking like a wide receiver, kind of. And, man, he really dug in deep and got the gold medal. That was really, really cool to see.
Yeah, inside lane. Was that kind of like a defensive end stunt move that he pulled?
It kind of was, but not really, but kind of.
So Cole Hawker with the huge win to come back and shock just about everybody, I think, in the 1,500 meter.
Yep.
And then Gabby Thomas running away from everybody in the 200 on the women's side, both to bring gold back to the United States. And we hand out Attaboys and Attagirls to them in each and every day, thanks to the Native Nursery, open for contractors and landscapers. If you're a contractor or landscaper, make the Native Nursery your go-to location today. They can be your one-stop destination, offering quality wholesale plants, trees, and landscaping materials, including boulders, flagstone, mulch, and more. We'll even take your leaves and hardscape waste for a low flat rate. Stop by and see Ben and Ted at 3473 Louisville Road, 5 minutes from Pellissippi off the Topside Road exit. You can also tell them the Sports Animal told you to call the Native Nursery at 865-310-3256, helping us hand out Attaboys and Attagirls every day right here on Josh and Swain. We'll come back with one segment to go. Boo Carter getting more talk today here on the show. We'll catch up on him when we come back 2 days ahead of the Vols big scrimmage coming up on Friday evening. One segment to go here on Josh and Swain. Back for the final segment of Josh and Swain. Thank you for hanging out with us today. If you want to go back and listen to any conversation we had, Braden Gall at the start of the hour, Austin Price at about 1:30, Search Josh and Swain anywhere you get your podcast. You can also listen in the podcast section of the WNML app. Hope you already have it. If you don't, download it. Come in handy with football season right around the corner. Our final segment of today's show will be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And at the start of the show, Swain, we talked a little bit about Boo Carter. And then in the middle of the show, when Austin Price joined us, you asked him about what he's seen in camp, some questions maybe that he's asking here just a week into Tennessee's fall practice. And one of those questions was on the back end of the defensive side. Listen to what Austin Price said when the defensive backfield came up in conversation.
Where are they at in the back end? Losing Jordan Thomas was a blow because he is a veteran. You just got so many new faces back into the defense. A lot of the fans have been clamoring for this, right? You know, they're ready to see. They didn't want to see Warren Burrell or Jalen McCullough or any of those guys anymore. They wanted new faces. Well, they've got them. And so we'll see what those new faces can do. Ricky Gibson, Jermod McCoy, go back to safety with Turrentine. You know, Boo Carter's going to get every opportunity to be Tennessee's starting star. It's up to him to go out and earn Tim Banks' trust. But I think Tennessee, as we said here on the 7th day of August, intends on it being Boo Carter's job. But he's got to continue to prove he can handle it mentally. If he can handle it mentally, I'd be shocked if it wasn't number 23 running the star spot for Tennessee.
Swain, that was Austin Price in the middle of our show talking about the defensive backfield and especially there at the end talking about Boo Carter.
Ooh, man, I got some chills. Hey, I've been on the Boo bandwagon for a long time, Josh. Now, I wanted him to play receiver, but I've been on the Boo bandwagon, him being in Orange for a very, very long time, and I'm glad that he is here. What an opportunity for him to, start, because you never know who may start in a class, because anything can shake out. Just because you're the best player in the class doesn't mean that you're going to start, because you got to look at the competition ahead of you. Like Mike Matthews was the most highly rated player, but there's a lot of dudes at wide receiver. Well, with the injuries of Jordan Thomas, it's a perfect opportunity for Boo Carter. I was thinking while AP was talking about Boo's opportunity, that's why it's probably better for a veteran guy to be your punt returner, like a Squirrel White, like a Cam Selden who was back there catching punts too, because he's already going to have enough on his plate as a true freshman playing on defense. You don't want to put him back there to return punts to start the season if he doesn't have to. If he can prove that he can handle both, okay, depending on what happens with Squirrel White and other guys who are returning punts. But if he can just handle his business as the star, then you don't have to worry about him in punt returner. But what a great opportunity it is for him.
So you think Squirrel, by the way, the most likely guy right now to be the punt returner?
He just looks like the starter to me. I mean, I've been back there catching punts in the preseason, not really knowing who was going to be the punt returner, and I really wasn't all that serious about doing it. I just was the best catcher of the football. And so I just kind of fell into being the starter game one, 2004 season. But just watching the guys catch the ball, Squirrel just looks like the natural starter at that position.
And then back to Boo. That's got to get fans excited. Fans would love to see Boo out there starting right away.
Boo. We're talking about Boo Carter, not like booing because we didn't like what we saw. Which is good because...
I thought you were booing me.
No, Josh, I would never do that.
No. Okay. So you got Brew Chance and then Boo Chance that will be breaking out at Neyland Stadium.
Correct. I mean, you have to be careful. We got to be smart about this, fans. You can't have a Boo chant every time Boo makes a tackle, because there's going to be a lot of cases where he's going to make a tackle after the other team picks up a first down.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got to do the Boo chant when he makes a really, really good play. Like behind the line of scrimmage, he gets his hand on the football, gets a pick, something like that. But let's not do the Boo chant when he gives up an 8-yard slant and it's 3rd and 7, okay?
Yeah, you got to know when and when not to. Like when a defender, I always laugh when a defender will make a big hit and stand up and start celebrating, but the big hit came after the wide receiver just picked up 17 yards and a first down and actually had the big play. It's just the big hit ended the big play.
Yeah, my favorite is when a safety makes a a pretty hard hit down the football field. It's like a 23-yard game and a first down. It's like, dude, sit down. That's why I like DBs, man. That's why I like them. See, you just gave a good example, and I gave a good example. And you never went up against them like I went up against them. That's how terrible they are. Can't stand them.
I see it.
I can't stand you. See, you know what I'm talking about.
Now you play a position where it can't be anything but the hands that cause something to go wrong. When a drop happens and the receiver looks down at his hands like they wronged him.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing ever, man. Is when a player look down at their hands. Kind of like Little Giants. I think little buddy would start talking to his hands. Like, come on, don't fail me. Come on, wake up. I thought you were my friend. We're on the same team. It's like you're talking to them like they're going to help you. No. It's not your hands, it's your eyes that failed you. You got to concentrate better. Nothing wrong with your hands.
All in. Hey, Jordan asked in the text box, did I miss it? Was the Cookie Monster for this season announced? Moonshine Mountain announced last week they're running Brew McCoy back again. So he will be the Cookie Monster again this season after not having a full campaign at that last year.
Are we doing 2 touchdowns and everyone gets a cookie, or what are we doing?
I think he scores a touchdown and it's 2 cookies.
Just one?
I think he's just got to get in the end zone once.
I thought last year 2 touchdowns was a lot, was a little much. That's a little much. I mean, I guess we thought just because Jaylen Wright was scoring 5 touchdowns in a game, we just figured that the next guy the following year was going to do the same thing.
Well, Alante made it look so easy too as a defender. He kept scoring.
That's right. Yeah, 1 touchdown is good enough for Brew. That's good.
Let me make sure. Yeah, when I score a touchdown in any game this season, 2 free cookies.
All right, let's go. Nico. Yep. Nico. Let's make it happen. Be a man of the people. The people want Brew touchdowns.
Yeah, that's another part of it too. They're excited for Chris Brazzell to score a touchdown, excited for any of them to score, but fans will want to make sure Brew gets in the end zone. Maybe that's a good thing, though. He just has to score once, because if you're looking for 2, that can get awfully greedy and take away from the others. But this offense, Swain, if they're getting back to 2022, that's a lot of touchdowns to go around, so that shouldn't be a problem.
If he scores 2, does that mean we get 4?
Now we're talking about being greedy.
They're just questions, Josh. I learned from a respectable media member that if you want good answers, you have to ask good questions.
Yep. The only way to get them, those answers, is to ask the questions first. So we will ask more tomorrow. We'll invite yours as well. We'll have plenty to discuss. Swain will be 1 day away from the first fall scrimmage. So instead of a countdown to the first game, we can just start counting down to the first fall scrimmage. How about that?
That works. Makes it seem like we're really close to something.
Something, yes. We'll take anything at this point as we get to August, and then the waiting game continues. We appreciate you being with us today. Remember, search Josh and Swain anywhere you get your podcast. You can go back and listen to our conversation today, any day. And we'll be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Charles Power of On 3 is going to join us at 12:30. We'll see what he thinks about all these recruits that have been committing to Tennessee, as well as in the 2026 class, a 5-star quarterback in Faison Brandon. So that's at 12:30 tomorrow. We'll see you at noon tomorrow right here on Josh and Swain.